I am going to beat you into the living death.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man Ant Walker here with the latest edition of the Living Death Show. And we have another guest this week, and this is a guest you are very, very familiar with, and we are so happy to have her on. As always, you know her from her work on Bloody Elbow, our former column together, King and Slim, that was on My MMA News, and just for being one of the best people the sport has ever produced in any capacity. Kristen King. Kristen, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Right day, right time. I'm getting ready to talk about some fights with you guys. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yes, no comments. Yes. I have no idea who gave you the whole ass wrong day last week, but
you're probably wondering, like, I thought they record on Mondays. What's up?
That's why I was like, oh, did you guys switch on Tuesday? Great. I'm happy with that. It wasn't. It's still Monday.
And of course, you know, the jack of all trades who has mastered them all, the senior editor of Sherdog.com and a big homie, Ben Duffy. What's up, Ben?
Hey, I'm doing well. I mastered a couple of additional trades this past weekend. I was up in Austin for the Association of Boxing Commission's training courses on MMA reffing and judging. It was enjoyable. It was informative. I learned a ton. I met some great folks. A lot I was already familiar with. I mean, you know, if you go to local MMA events in Texas, there's a half dozen usual suspects that you'll always see, but it was kind of cool to interact with them in a different professional format. And then the instruction itself given by, you know, high-level MMA mainstay Kevin McDonald was outstanding. So yeah, I had a really good time and super affordable. I recommend, even if you're just a fan and one of these is going up in your area, there were a good number of people in those rooms that didn't really have any concrete plans of becoming a ref or judge themselves, but myself included. I wanted it for my own professional development, and it was absolutely worth my time.
Sounds great. Yeah, so I feel like I'm obligated now to find one of these courses because I'm the only person on the regular panel who has no commission training. So the high-level fan is falling back, people. All right, and of course, we got the man who anchors the panel every week with the stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers. He is back from that rest stop from There's Something About Mary, and in his place, Jay Petrie. How you doing, my man?
I didn't get taken out there. I was in a very familiar spot, luckily, a place that actually I grew up right near there when I called you guys and called into the show and realized that I didn't remember the name of the fighter who I was trying to identify, Pete Rodriguez. I am above all, I'm really happy that I convinced or bugged or pestered Ben into checking out the ABC training, because I got a lot from it, and I hope that he got a lot from it too. And it makes me happy to have more media guys break the illusion that others have that we don't know what we're talking about, because I'm pretty sure Mr. Duffy, had he interjected a lot, would have probably blown their brains. Right, Mr. Duffy?
And I made it a point not to do so, but I do have some inside knowledge that I passed the test with flying colors.
Oh, yeah. I was a little more rambunctious. I guess that's my personality. And speaking of rambunctious, the stat of the week is 1. Why is the stat of the week 1? Because we didn't have a UFC card. We had one championship. It's not the reason why that's the stat, or that it was their first event on Prime Video, not the stat either. In that Demetrious Johnson and Adriano Moraes rematched for the 135-pound title. And in their first fight, Mighty Mouse Johnson got knocked out for the first time in his career. How did he respond? By becoming the first man to finish Adriano Moraes. So 1 is now the number of finished stoppage losses on Adriano Moraes' record, courtesy of one Demetrious Johnson. So there's your stat of the week.
Courtesy of one Demetrious Johnson on one championship on Amazon Prime 1. So yeah, 1 is definitely the number of the day here. So before we get into a lot of the specifics, this was the first time that one championship had a show on Amazon Prime. Overall, like, how are we grading the I don't want to say necessarily the performance of one championship on Amazon, but just how was the viewing experience for you?
I'll go. I give it an A-. Considering everything that was at stake, and I'm sure we'll go into some of the stuff that happened before and outside of the actual broadcast window in a moment. But in terms of the product that actually came across my screen, it delivered most of what I want from one championship. I want to see you put your best foot forward. Give me your best fighters. Give me your cross discipline, multi art events. Let your striking, your striking exhibitions, give me some gnarly knockouts, and make it easy for me to watch. Like, don't make me watch something at 2 a.m. on an app that I have to download. I already have Amazon Prime, so give me all those things. I can quibble with some of the pacing, but UFC's been doing this for fucking ever, and I hate their pacing. Like, wasn't any worse than like one of the old UFC on Fox cards. And the fights themselves were, for the most part, dynamite, and whether by design, just putting Buchecha in like a squash match, or just because fireworks occurred, like DJ versus Moraes, yeah, the product delivered. I want a 30 seconds forward, 10 seconds back button. If you make me watch something on my computer and you don't have that in the year 2022, I do hate you. But like that can be fixed. A-.
Yeah, I'm in the same realm as Ben. I gave it like a B+. Honestly, it was a very solid show. I was thoroughly entertained by a lot of the action that we had, and I really do like the mixing of like MMA here, and then we have Muay Thai, because some of those Muay Thai fights were like amazing. Mind blowing. I absolutely loved a lot of that. Of course, with one championship, we know what kind of spectacle we're going to get with one. So sometimes it can kind of borderline get like hyperbolic in a sense. I think there was a part on like the first portion of the broadcast where they had these two like men in black dudes come with the new belt, the 26-pound belt that everyone is talking about, and they presented it in such a way that it was just like, what is happening right now? I was entertained, but I was also confused, because I'm like, why did this make the broadcast? They could have just showed this like, hey, this is the new belt that DJ is going to get or whatever, and I would have been fine with that. But they made sure to make a show out of it. And again, that's just something that we're used to with one championship, this grandiose and over exaggerated type of product. We always get that. And of course, Ben touched on it a little bit. I think the user-friendly platform, I did see some complaints about it. I think mainly some of my complaint, so that it doesn't deter people from actually tuning in to watch one, because sometimes it almost felt as though like you really had to sort your way through to find a one championship card and watch it. So I'm happy that it's kind of on this platform, but if we're going to have the problems that we were having, that a lot of people are saying, I can't get to it, I don't have rewind or forward button, I think that should be fixed before the next Prime Video event. And also a lot of the production issues, there was some odd cutaways, like it cut away so fast to commercial that like I was watching Buchecha like celebrate his win, and then it just cut off, and then it was like 3 commercials back to back to back. I'm like, I don't mind the commercials, but I also feel like it should be a little bit more smooth of a transition, and I don't feel like we got that, and it was just very odd. So overall, I think one championship delivered with a very solid card with some minor tweaks here and there for their next products.
That's when he cut Grushenko's head off and like held it like dripping like above the crowd. They're like, no, this is in America. You can't do that.
Exactly. That was kind of a bummer, but I was there. I saw it.
It was. I have always been on record to say one championship delivers a decent product when the fights are happening and they shut the hell up for a little while and let the people punch and kick each other. You got a good show. When Ant's favorite thing is the Muay Thai and little gloves, and when they let them fly with that, it delivered like it always does, like Nongo doing his thing or Pai and Pak doing his. There was just a lot of entertaining action, and one built the card that way, so that's fine. Like that, there is no issue there. But then when it comes to the rest of it, the presentation, the packaging is something I've always taken issue with. Ever since they became one championship instead of one FC. That name change brought along a ton of bluster. more hyperbole than PFL right now, which is a lot, I know, because they have the smartest cage in the sport. Apparently, that's their words. The hyperbole, the bluster, the pumping of it. If everything is great, then nothing can be great. If everything is amazing and the best that there's ever been, then nothing can be. It's okay.
Michael Chiavello is disappearing right now, like the brothers and sister in
Just let him go in
Back to the Future.
Just let him
I guess Jay says this. Just Chiavello is disappearing into the ether.
I love Michael Chiavello on bursts. When he starts getting in his rhythm and overuses catchphrases, it's tough. But I've been watching Chiavello for years. You know, the K1 days and all of the things for many moons. HDNet, all of the calls he did. And he's almost become a caricature of himself, like how Goldie kind of became that towards the end. Yeah, I know, I say almost. And that they didn't use him on this show completely was surprising, that they only threw him on Muay Thai fights. But I get it. He just called a full fight card 12 hours beforehand, allegedly, if you believe the tape delay and whatever, but I don't want to get into that. There were a couple issues. The first of all, it was... I believe it was it the first fight in Katastam Lapakis where they cut away at the finish and then went to commercial for a while and then came back mid. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It was Asuki Hirata, Heishin Lin, when the fight was over and they went the distance and we didn't know who was going to win. I thought I knew who was going to win. I was wrong because apparently the judging over there needs some ABC courses. That they passed the decision, the official result, and we're already in the interview. Like, that can't happen. This is 2022. You can't not know where you are in your broadcast. And I'm a little less forgiving because one's been doing it for so long on so many networks that should know better. Amazon is not an insignificant, outlet. They run live events. They've been running live events. This isn't like the first one live show like one might try and push it as. It's really a shame when the organization and the framework itself can get in the way of the product, because that shouldn't be the case. It should be product first. Let it be what it is. You don't have to sell us on watching an event that we're already watching. You don't have to hype us up on a fight that we're already excited about. It doesn't need to be that. And it just all makes it a product that makes me not want to really take it all in every live event. Because it's always like this. And that's just so grating to somebody like this who has to cover the sport intently. I have to follow the sport very, very specifically. I wrote the play-by-play for Sherdog, so I had to be locked in and good to go, which means I had to take all of it in, and Mitch Shilson yelling at me and everything like that. It's just, it makes an A card into a B. And that's really too bad, because if you don't get in the way, let it shine, you're good to go. I don't know, maybe Ant thinks otherwise.
No, I'm in agreement with you. Like, my experience was a bit different because the only part of this show that I watched live was the main event.
Okay.
But I tried to go back and look at some of the fights. You guys know, I tell you every week. Typically, I don't watch the fights live. I go back and look at everything individually, as we know what the results are and whatnot. But I wanted to see some of these individual fights, but I'd had to go through an entire event to get to bits and pieces. And that's one thing that really took away from the user-friendly experience. As much as I hate ESPN Plus as an app and how that functions and the user-friendliness of that, they separate the fights into individual bouts when the event is over. And it makes things a lot easier to go back in, even if we're doing tape study, if we just want to watch some crazy moment again, or if you just want to take the fun bits out of a fight as opposed to watching everything else, that makes it very, very easy to access the product. Amazon didn't do that with this. And it makes me think, because I went back and tried to look at any particular financials that were involved with this, like how much is Amazon paying One Championship to show their content. I'm not finding anything. If you guys know something, let me know, but I'm not finding anything. So I'm under the impression that to Amazon, this was pennies. This was not a priority. They just kind of slapped it on there. And even when I went back to try to watch the event in part or in whole, I had to go through the search bar and type in One Championship, and then I see it, as opposed to you just see like things that you might be interested in. Amazon knows my interest in martial arts. I've ordered tie shorts and boxing gloves and hand wraps, and I've ordered past UFC pay-per-views on Amazon. Like it is not unknown to Amazon that I'm involved in mixed martial arts in some way, shape, or form. So when I turn on, these algorithms should have this put on the front page when I go to Amazon Prime Video, and especially knowing that I watched the event in part. Like I've already tuned into this, and maybe I want to watch the rest of it. This should be something that is slapped across that home page. So that to me says that this is not a priority for Amazon the way the UFC is a priority for ESPN. And that's now, as far as the event itself, like when I turn it on, like, okay, the video quality looks good. Like it's a one championship product that I expect. Now, I was happy that I didn't hear a whole lot of Chevello and Mitch Chilson together, because I think that is a horribly abrasive to my senses to have those two together too much. But overall, it felt like a one championship product, which is good. It just comes with a lot of bluster that I'm sure we're going to get into.
I have been scrolling on the front page of Amazon Prime Video basically since you started answering the question, and I have still not run into one yet.
Exactly.
And I'm going through categories and store and Streambox, and
I had to go to
Kristen
the search
King
bar because it was like that.
Yeah.
How did everyone watch it? Because I watched it two ways. I had it on my television, one, and then when I went to finish off the rest of the card, I went into my room and I had my laptop and I did it that way. I will say that on the television, on the app, on Prime Video, far easier to find, right there on the front page. But then when I got on the computer, I had to do a little bit of digging. So I was curious, did everyone watch it on their computer or tablet? How did you guys see it?
Same way, Apple TV like you.
Okay.
I did the laptop. Now, when the event was live, that was on the front page. Like I turned it on and it was right away there. Now going back, they didn't prioritize it for searches or anything. So and I went through. I did the same thing you did, Jay. I scrolled through a lot of the options on Amazon. I watch Amazon Prime Video all the time. Yeah. All the documentaries and movies and whatnot.
And The Boys.
I did. Yeah, The Boys. That's probably my favorite show right now, other than Snowfall. But so I actually I found that like that Jordan Peele movie Nope, like I could order that, I could rent that on Prime, so that's cool. I found that out. But I didn't find one championship until I really saw it after. And if you're trying to capture an audience that's fresh to this, you want to have it right there, because the fight fan that doesn't know they're a fight fan yet is not going to type in one championship for the search bar. It's just not going to happen.
No, this is an interesting thing that you bring up, because same as you guys, I watched it on my desktop, and it was, I had to search multiple things in my search bar before I could get to it. And so it's funny that the four of us who, by all of our browsing and spending habits and the cookies on our computer, are screaming, hey, we would like one championship if we knew it was there, had this kind of difficulty getting to it, because people I know that have no knowledge and no interest in martial arts got bombarded to the point where I got more questions from people that just like, hey, Ben knows about fight stuff, I should ask him. Like I had multiple people ask me, so what is this one championship thing? Because like it's all over my home screen, and they're telling me like when it's going to be on, like is this like a UFC type thing, and I have to explain. Like a guy that I play Dungeons and Dragons with online once a week that does not know anything about combat sports, he's like, yeah, like I've been watching a lot of this one championship thing because they said this event is coming and they keep giving me like free videos to watch. I like a lot of these fights, but there's this one fighter, and again, he doesn't know anything about different disciplines. He's like Mikey something, and every time he fights, he just sits on his butt and scoots towards the guy and like grabs at his feet. I hate his fights. Like, okay, that means you don't like grappling. That's okay. He's like, what the hell kind of fight is this? My wife, like, she's like, is this for you? And puts down this like broadsheet size like mailer, glossy mailer from one championship, like announcing. Wow. You know what? You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'll go get this shit.
That's wild.
Where was my flyer?
Maybe it's here's my theory now. Maybe they know they already got us. They know
That's-
we're already
yeah.
going to be looking for it. So if interest is above 25, then ignore, because they're going to be going looking for it anyway. That's so wild that there is an actual physical.
I was gonna say, how come I didn't get one, but I know why I wouldn't.
Yeah,
get one.
you're
They
I
already
was
like me.
I was at this press conference and I didn't get one of these.
Wow,
that's so crazy.
Wow. Okay.
that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, Chaudhry, you ain't sending me nothing. What's up? Well, I
Okay.
understand, Chaudhry. I understand you don't like me. It's cool.
Yeah. Are you blocked by Chaudhry on Twitter? You should check.
I don't think so.
He
Last I
does
checked,
block.
it wasn't.
I think he just blocked. I know he blocked Mike Russell, of course, because Mike Russell,
Yeah,
pays attention to the things, and Chaudhry doesn't like people paying attention to his things.
I like Mike Russell and I want to block him half the time. I get it.
Yeah, I you know what? I would be surprised if I was, because I have not been very active on Twitter for like a year now.
Yeah, the clapback cartel needs you, baby.
The clapback cartel has been chilling, man. I just don't have time. You know what I'm saying? But well, Kristen is an appointed member of the clapback cartel. Like she can take the reins for a little bit.
I'm also like you. Like I just don't say anything on Twitter. I don't care to.
Unless
I will give you a random factoid about some gruesome injury, then you can count on me to say something. But other than that, I'm just
at this point, I'm more interested in sharing my opinions about hip hop on Twitter than MMA. Which, by the way, we got to talk about Jay-Z's verse on the Khaled song. If you guys agree that it deserves all the hype it's getting, but that's another story. Let's keep things pushing. That's probably going to be an all-fair conversation if anybody knows what I'm talking about. All right, so let's talk about the some of the happenings at the event, because Demetrious Johnson, as Jay's stat of the week alluded to, wonderful performance there, knockout of Adriano Moraes, and evening the score for them, a knockout apiece. Sure, the rubber match is next, but let's talk about Demetrious's legacy in regards to this first, because if you watch a UFC broadcast, any flyweight title being contested, man, not a lot of love for Mighty Mouse. It's almost like they pretend like he doesn't exist. The stat that flashed in, the incomplete stat that flashed on the screen during the last pay-per-view, where it just omitted the fact that Demetrious Johnson has, a record-worthy win streak in the UFC. Do you think avenging this loss to Moraes in the fashion that he did, does this have an impact on his overall legacy?
I think it saved it. I really think it rescued him from the pitfall of UFC champion, leaves company in loud fashion, goes to other organization, fails. And like we see that, and we see that. I mean, Ben Henderson is arguably a top 5 all-time lightweight. But what's been happening in Bellator is even his fights in welterweight, which shouldn't have any impact on his lightweight career, but how that thing goes, has been kind of taking away from his legacy by being a 500 Bellator fighter, considering he was a UFC and WBC champion. Duh, what am I thinking? He got Cerrone in that fight that we'll leave for another day. So yeah, I think this rescued Mighty Mouse from being totally written off. And just a little behind the curtain, Demetrious Johnson was not a ranked member, a ranked anything fighter in any rankings panel, because he doesn't fight at 125, so we can't rank him there. His resume at 135 was Yuya Wakamatsu, Tatsumitsu Wada, and Danny Kingad, and a loss to Adriano Moraes. Is that a top 15 bantamweight resume? No, it's not. And pound for pound, he got smoked by a guy that, say what you want about Adriano Moraes, he was a very unranked guy, so that hurt him substantially in a lot of people's eyes. Now, of course, you can look at it and go, well, Moraes is actually pretty darn good. Yeah, and he's avenged. I think he's avenged all but one of his losses, and I think it was like an early split decision he had. So Moraes is legit, but the size difference and the whole appearance of the fight itself, it looked like he was a step behind. Even when he won, even when he tapped out, I think it was Wakamatsu in his very first fight, he got cracked and had a busted eye socket, and they were like, oh boy, things might be different over there. So this was a very big saving grace for Johnson to kind of remind people that he's still there, because he's only 36. I mean, geez, he just turned 36 this month. He's not done yet. He's I think he's a better 36-year-old fighter than Michael Chandler. Yes, ESPN, I think that. You're wrong in this one. I can't help you there. Because if he had lost, if Johnson had lost, that'd be it. I think that they would have, he had the Rod Tank fight. That was kind of where it was going when he lost to Moraes the first time. His next fight back was a wackadoo mixed rules, one in, one out. Because remember, it was a 4-round fight. The first was Muay Thai, the second was MMA, the third was Muay Thai, and the fourth was going to be MMA. So it was going to be a Shinyaoki Jinatsu kind of fight. And then he put Rodtang to sleep. But that was going to be it for him. That was going to be what he was going to do. He was going to fight like a Nong-O and things would be weird. And so this pulled him out from the pit, which I think would have been unfair. But it's kind of how things go. Am I off? Am I spitting? What do we got here?
No, I think a second loss in a row in kind of a legit MMA contest would have relegated him to one being like, okay, how can we salvage our investment here? Well, we need to put him in high spectacle, low stakes exhibition type things from here on out. Because you're right, and I'm glad you brought this up. Even before the loss to Moraes, there were like little cracks showing. I remember just laughing out loud when Danny Kingad was like, I plan to attack Johnson at his wrestling. I think that's his weak point. And I'm like, dude, you're gonna die. Yeah. And then he took Johnson down.
Him down. Yes.
And I realized, oh, you know what? Being 8 years younger and a full weight class bigger does make a difference. And yeah, kind of like all of your all-time greats, just kind of like before Fedor lost, you could see the cracks appearing. You didn't know when the upset was coming, but you could see that it probably was at some point. So yeah, the win over Moraes definitely, it buys him another era. He basically gets to append another chapter to his legitimate competitive legacy before he kind of steps into the shadows of either retirement or fun fights or whatever. Now, all of a sudden, his next fight matters. His next fight matters globally rather than just, for one's entertainment value.
Kristen, you got any thoughts on this?
I mean, they pretty much laid it out the way that I had it too. I was a little bit concerned that a second loss to Moraes would be kind of damaging to his legacy as one of the greatest of all times that we've ever seen in the sport. So I was very happy to see him not only avenge that loss and become the first man to stop Moraes, but now he has another belt to add to his mantle that I'm sure is already like chock full of achievements, considering what he was able to do with his time in the UFC and so forth. So yeah, to me, this fight, I just still considered DJ one of the greatest. And I feel like when you get tested in a way that he was, because again, this was the first time he's ever been knocked out in his career by this guy. And Moraes is absolutely no joke. So it's almost like a litmus test, kind of, to see how you come back from this kind of adversity that you've never faced before, and not only to overcome it, but do it in such an eerily reminiscent way to the way that you fell like a year ago. That's GOAT status for me. So I'm glad that he got this win, and I'm more excited for the trilogy. I think a lot of people, almost in the same realm as like Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman, no one was looking forward to like a trilogy until Leon Edwards did the unthinkable and slept Kamaru Usman. Now it's all anyone can talk about. So I feel like I can include Moraes and Johnson 3 in that conversation as well, where it's like, you know what? The first one ended in a knockout. The second one ended in a knockout. How is the third one going to end? Because Moraes, he had some shining moments in that fight. Let's not get it twisted. The first portion of that fight, it was all Moraes. Of course, Mighty Mouse was active on the bottom, and he sliced Moraes open with that elbow, I think it was, in like the first round. So he was very active, but it was just very entertaining to see them kind of the momentum shift, I guess, because Moraes was all for it. It was 2-0 in my scorecard for Moraes, and then that third round came, and the adjustments that Johnson made, which is just so impressive to me. Like, I love when a fighter makes that mid-fight adjustment and just starts making sense. that's exactly what Johnson did. So definitely think this one salvaged his legacy just a little bit, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the third one does.
Yeah, that adjustment was interesting because like up until that point, like I did the like a live stream with Drake Riggs and Pat OJ for the main event on Drake's channel. And we were talking about how DJ was like biting on the feints a lot. Like he looked kind of gun shy for a second there, and then it it was kind of reminiscent of Leon Edwards KO, where it was like you see someone who is overall losing, and like they have their moments here and there, and then all of a sudden they very calmly and very methodically find the kill shot. I mean, it was a switch stance cross, I believe, into the flying knee that finished it. It was beautifully executed. Speaking of which, I want to bring up something that I asked on that show. Where do you rank this for DJ's all-time finishes?
It's gotta be no better than third, because the flying like slam to armbar on Ray Borg and the buzzer beater armbar on Horiguchi are probably 1 and 2. The like sniper from the rafters kill shot on Benavidez, where Benavidez is just dead with blood coming out of his mouth in the middle of the octagon, and they're shooting him from above, so it just literally looks like somebody shot him with a rifle. That's got to be up there, but it's in the top 5, and that's saying a lot, because for as much as like ignorant people derided prime Demetrious Johnson for being boring, the guy finished more than half of his title challengers. Like, what more do you want from a 125-pound guy? You know, like it's up there. What a beautiful knee. Like, just, it reminds you what an incredible martial artist he is. Like, forgetting weight class, forgetting style, just how like well trained his mind is, like how like just elite his physical tools are, even at 36, because he hurts Moraes, and to go from there so smoothly into that accurate flying knee that just basically spears the guy through the fence. There's only a handful of people on the planet that hit that knee.
Yeah.
Like other elite fighters kind of will probably chase Moraes to the fence and just like flail with punches and hope for the stop, or, you know, get like a single collar tie and like hockey uppercut the guy to death. Demetrious Johnson is one of about 5 people on the planet that launches a flying knee that hits him right in the face and like, again, like strains him through the fence like a Play-Doh, you know, that Play-Doh pasta maker thing.
You know, I ranked that that finish second on all time. I mean, the Ray Borg submission is just, it could be the greatest finish of all time. Like, that's by far, it's the best submission we've ever seen. But Benavidez, I could understand 2 or 3, but I'm going 2 for what we saw Friday night. Just I'm a sucker for a switch stance punch. I'm just a sucker for that, and the accuracy of that flying knee is just. And then I give DJ a lot of credit too for fighting someone who's like 3 weight classes bigger than him in reality. So I give him a ton of credit for that.
It was just staggering because, again, I wrote the play-by-play, so I was paying very, very close attention to like the impact of the strikes, and there was a measurable difference in the way one fighter would react when taking just a single strike versus another. Like, Johnson was stunned multiple times. Kristen mentioned it very spot on. The first half of the fight was Moraes. He was beating him to the punch. He was hitting him much harder. I think I referenced in the Sherdog Slack, I believe I referenced like when Ben Henderson fought Jason Jackson in welterweight not long ago, in that there was nothing Ben Henderson could do to hurt, get the respect of, or even get his attention. He wasn't strong enough to grab hold of him, and he was like an immovable wall. So it was kind of one of the, I think it was actually very similar when Henderson fought Andrei Korotchkov. So maybe that's a similar instance, and a guy that's just too small for where he's fighting. But you could tell the strikes weren't having an impact. There's a super punch out for Super Nintendo. There was a villain you had to face, and the regular punches did nothing, and they didn't phase him. But then you'd hit him with a super punch, and it would get his attention, and it would be a whole thing. But it was kind of like that. Nothing would phase Moraes. Would take it, and he'd come back. He'd counter him. He'd hit him harder, and then Moraes started to fade, and then suddenly Johnson's strikes started having at least an appreciable effect. The overhand right that he clipped him with had him in trouble. I think Moraes, he wobbled back and he kind of leaned back like this against the cage. He didn't have his balance completely underneath him. And yeah, I mean, Duffy, for Johnson to have that wherewithal to know this is the kill shot, this is the strike, not a big looping punch or 1,000 little punches or some kind of rampage. It was I'm going to hit him with what he hit me with last year, and son of a gun, it's going to do the thing, and he did it. And it's remarkable. It's not better than the Mighty Whiz bar, which I believe is what he called the arm bar. I have a weird special place in my heart for when Johnson walked Henry Cejudo down and need him to Bolivian, not oblivion, to Bolivian, and just absolutely ruined Cejudo. But yeah, when you got the vision, Duffy reminded me of the Benavidez boom down knockout. But yeah, I mean, top 5 is respectable because Johnson is a guy that has so many memorable stoppages. Like that Kimura he hit on Chris Carriazo was sexy. If you remember that a long time ago, it wasn't just a standard, no, that's it. It wasn't like a big man submission you got. So yeah, he's a crafty devil. And it really does push him into good fight territory instead of fun fight territory.
Definitely. Kristen, where do you rank the finish?
Yeah, I had it in my top 5 as well. I want to put it at like number 3, honestly, because I was
fair one.
I was very impressed with it, and just to have the wherewithal to do that. You couldn't write a better ending.
Yes.
Like, this is the same way you got finished. Literally only Mighty Mouse Johnson can do something like that. And that's why it's so impressive. So definitely top 3.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So now let's address the elephant in the room, because I have a feeling if that elephant was in the room, he would make weight and he'd be on hydration as well. So how do you feel about the way they're handling their weigh-in procedures? Jay, I know you've got a ton to say about this as you were following this on your Twitter feed.
I was following this on my Twitter feed because I almost wrote up a weigh-in brief for Sherdog. Now, I will preface this by saying I don't believe we have ever had one championship weigh-in briefs on our schedule. I just think it's a timing thing. It's a situation thing. The results sometimes are sent to us 8 hours before the event. Where are we really going to put out a weigh-in brief at 1 a.m. for an 8 a.m. fight card? So just it's not reasonable. And I was looking at this, and one of the situations that arose is that when the weigh-ins initially happened that Thursday morning, 9-10, I think it was actually officially at the end of the day, 10 of the 20 fighters on the card messed up. Half of the fight card in Muay Thai, in MMA, there was a heavyweight that screwed up this thing. How does this happen? The heavyweight was not 265 drawn out or 266 like a Greg Hardy going. No, this was a guy who was about Ciryl Gane-Tai Tuivasa, 255. Just horribly dehydrated. Now, was it because he was drinking the night before? And whatever, I don't know. You can make all kinds of jokes. But how does half the card miss weight or fail hydration? I get that the hydration standard is bunk. Why do I get that it's bunk? Because I've learned this having conversations this past week about how easy it is to game the system, in that a person will consume a great deal of water, they will work out strenuously to sweat it out, and then when they pee, the water that they just consumed is more hydrated than the rest of it. I don't know exactly the specifics behind it, but it's a gaming the system, gaming the system kind of way that happens in wrestling. Because I guess there's in amateur wrestling, there are sometimes hydration tests. Ben might know more about this than I do. I don't know if it was like that for when he wrestled, but that was what many of the Twitter people I interacted with were saying. One championship has a very clear, we ban all weight cutting and what have you by dehydration. It's on their website. You can find it right now. It's readily available in the rules. It's very specific. So to have fighters in one championship posting videos on Instagram, I'm not talking like the Angela Lee thing, because we all know about that one. I'm talking about Amir Khan, who fought at 160, that Friday morning, the fight card before the one Prime video, where he's in the sweatsuit and he's doing the thing and he's saying this is a tough cut, as one championship explicitly prohibits a weight cutting of any kind by dehydration. So to have this kind of blatant inconsistency and favoritism towards certain fighters is already off-putting, and then to have the smoke and mirrors that we have from one championship, and that they will publicly post and show weigh-in videos, except for a 19-minute portion that is edited out, and there's just a banner of the fight poster where that is precisely what seems to have happened, where the Moraes thing happens, all of that happens, where there's nothing to be seen here. And then they have you come back 10 hours later in the ceremonials. That's the policy. Early weigh-ins, you fail, you mess up, you come back 10 hours later. And several of these fighters are still heavy by a not insignificant number, or by the same they were 10 hours ago. How does that happen? How do you mess that? I could see Charles Oliveira not being able to sweat it out when he's fried in Arizona and he can't get that last 0.25 pounds. I mean, cut your hair, but whatever, fine, okay. But some of these fighters have half a day and can't manage the situation. And then the cherry of the cherries on top, Adriano Moraes on Thursday night was, as of the ceremonials, was still heavy and dehydrated. But they have the closed door weigh-ins that are closed to the public. They're not recorded. We have no knowledge other than the official numbers that come out. Suddenly, Moraes has now cut more weight. He cut 0.75 pounds. He was only a quarter of a pound heavy. He decided to cut an extra half a pound, and he's fully hydrated to the point that he is more hydrated than Demetrious Johnson. Where do you think I make this joke sometimes, but where do you think you are right now? Who do you think you're talking to? Do you really think this is okay? Yeah, that's cool. That's good. And then you look at the fighters and go, I don't know. I don't think so. When Demetrious Johnson, known for his surprising strength, cannot get Moraes off of him in the first two rounds, and there is a clear he's trying everything he can, and Moraes is heavier in the regard that you're like, what is happening right? No, none of this. This is whose line is it anyway? One championship weigh-in version where everything's made up and the points don't matter. I don't understand why there's this facade of we're going to try and be legit if they're completely not being legitimate. There is no chance a state athletic commission will sanction any of what's happening here. Won't happen. So I don't understand how one is trying to come to the States. Again, this fight card was in Singapore. It was at the Singapore Indoor Stadium like every other card. So they didn't have commission oversight. But do you think that Mike Mazzulli would be like, yeah, you're good. Just do your thing behind the scenes and send us the numbers? Hell, expletive, no. And it's mind-boggling that what's the expression? Don't pee in my pocket and tell me it's raining. Just it can't be the way it is, and we can't, as media and fans, just accept it. And I think that's why I yelled about it for 5 minutes right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this really showed the limitations that one championship has. Like they have this sort of coming out party again for North American audiences, and we're unable to at least pretend like they're going through the motions. I think they've ruled themselves out for any major market fight in the US, or just coming to the US period, if this is the sort of thing that's gonna happen. I mean, you could go to Texas or Florida where like things just kind of happen, and whatever is whatever, or you can go to like a small market. You can go to like Alabama, you go to Dothan and relive the UFC's glory days if you'd like, but that's not going to be worth an Asian-based promotion with the travel and the expense and setup and all that's going to cost. So you're talking about California, you're talking about Nevada, you're talking about New York, you're talking about the major markets who, by the way, really give a damn as far as their commissions are concerned and are really cognizant of things like that. There's no way Andy Foster's letting that fly in California. The commission that releases the fight day weigh-ins, that actually keeps themselves concerned with that, there is absolutely no way that flies. None whatsoever. So if one is content to stay where they are, then so be it. They can keep doing this and we'll just watch it to be entertained. But if they want to be taken seriously as a legit mixed martial arts promotion that is rivaling the UFC, that, you know, granted they outweigh the UFC viewers by 70 billion or whatever, if they want to be taken seriously, they have to get this figured out, which means actually weighing in people, actually adhering to any sort of protocol. And if there is a failure, then you have consequences. That's it. No other way around it.
You guys have already kind of weighed in, sorry, pun fully intended,
Please.
on the serious parts of this. Again, going into this, I have no real animus towards one. Just I always ask, are you moving towards a set of protocols that will allow you to put on shows in sanctioned parts of North America? Because if you're not headed towards that, then kind of what is even the point of all this buffoonery? And no, this, even in Texas, and I make fun of Texas's lack of regulation sometimes, you can't put on a show without having a commission inspector at your weigh-ins. You can't do that. Like, they wouldn't let you do that here. So I don't really even want to go off on the serious stuff. I just am still marveling that Ciryl Gane-Tai missed hydration. You're a heavyweight. All you had to do was drink a couple cups of fucking water, like a couple hours before the weigh-in. Like, how did you miss that? Was he trying to get out of fighting Buchecha? Was he like trying to call in, like, you know, I'm sick today. I don't have enough. Like, based on what we saw from these weigh-ins, I'm gonna assume that One Championship's title belts actually weigh 31 pounds and contain no moisture. I mean, they told us it weighed 26 pounds too many times. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, that belt is 30% heavier than they're telling us, and it's not hydrated.
I can't believe that there was a multiple times on the broadcast they bragged about having the heaviest belt in combat sports. I wanted to throw up. Like, that's too much hyperbole even for my joking riffing standards.
And even if it's true, so
yeah,
like,
yeah,
who cares? Like, it's just one of those things. I mean, that is a very one thing to brag about. It just is actually, that feels more like a PFL thing to brag about.
Yeah,
like I'm
just,
yeah,
the
if
PFL,
the belt has
the
stats
classic weird
like,
flex that you get from PFL. Yeah,
you're just like, oh, okay, like, cool, but
PFL has a microchip in their belt, and they're the smartest belt on the planet.
Yeah, so like the belt sends out stats to flash on the screen as the champion walks around town or something, showing
it has their win-loss record in the the alarm clock that has a little hologram above it thing.
Tim Sibley is going to come out of retirement so he can get one of those to wear on his dates.
Dude, Tim Sibley could run through the heavyweight division right now. I'm just throwing that out there.
He'd have to run a lot to make heavyweight. So
yeah. Well, for that he'd have to go to One Championship.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hydrated fully. Let's go.
Tim Sibley and Brandon Vera. Let's make it happen. I don't think that fight's ever happened before.
All right, so let's keep things pushing here. We got quick hits, so we're gonna put 10 seconds on the clock, and we're gonna ask some questions here. So, Jay, I think I'll begin with you on this one. At 4-0 with 4 first-round stoppages, can Marcus Almeida break through, or is he a product of smart matchmaking? Oh wait, did the thing not? Oh, come on now. How can the bell didn't go off? Oh my god.
But ding.
Wow, that sucks. All right, well, here we go. I'll just ding.
One picked up a lot of new heavyweights, a lot of low-level heavyweights. They can keep feeding him 2 and 2 guys and 3 and 1 guys forever. So there it is. I'll take 10 more seconds. Haha. They're going to keep on feeding him guys that are 6 and 1, and then he can build up to be like a 14 and 1 fighter, and he's going to say he's the queen of MMA, and then he's going to call out cyborg weight. That's somebody else.
All right. So actually, that was user error because I hit the wrong setting. So that was on my minute timer that I used for intervals in the gym.
I hope people realize I was riffing on Kayla Harrison.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Let's I guess I'll throw this one your way, Kristen. Should Kristen Lee's finish of Rayon Oak be reviewed? Will it be? Oh wow! Really?
Where's
I have a green screen effect on here. I didn't realize that. Wow, I didn't know I did that. There we go.
Oh, okay, there we go. I don't think it should. Knees to a grounded opponent are legal in one. I think you may be referencing how it kind of almost borderline went like soccer kick, but when I watched it like replay, the shin didn't really connect. I think it was more so knee. So no, it should not be reviewed, and I don't think it will be.
All right, cool.
It's the royal family of one championship.
That too.
There's no way.
And I'm sure this is going to this thing is going to mess up again. So I think if I'm not mistaken, it has a 10-second warm-up timer and then it goes to a minute. It's what it looked like on your. Well, this is a different app that I have, and I had to reprogram all the stuff because I got a new phone, and the app itself was messing up. I like this functioning in the gym better, but it's all screwed up right now. So sorry. Okay. Who's Ben? Looks like you're next. Dustin Poirier confirmed he has a fight for New York at UFC 281. What is the holdup of the official announcement? Ding.
When the UFC announces a fight before the fighters, we know which direction the pressure is going. When one fighter announces that they have a fight and the UFC and the other fighter are silent, it's usually because they're waiting on the other fighter to sign, and it's usually about money at that point. If you're at the Dustin Poirier level, if it's a couple of mid-roster dudes making 30 and 30, it's not. But at the Dustin Poirier level, it's usually about something like money. So that's my guess there, that they're just kind of waiting, hoping that the other end of this deal signs.
Yeah.
All right, and let me ask you a question.
Of course.
I got a question for you, and this was at the time, it still is a Sherdog exclusive interview that we did with Dede Pederneiras, the head of Nova União, who explained to us, and we kind of knew this, but he confirmed that Jose Aldo has one fight left on his UFC deal. This is if this next fight is his last appearance, who should it be against?
Dominic Cruz, baby. Of course. Well, there is no other answer. Even though I'd like to see him against Dillashaw, if he loses against Aldo, Dillashaw will be too high in the division to make that make sense. So
I'll take it.
Yes. Please, just give us the Cruz fight. All right. So Jay, I believe you have another question for us that we'll all discuss as the Bennett timer rolls.
Oh, I do, didn't I? What was that question? Oh, yes, I do. I got you. I got it. So recently on Monday, actually, former UFC champion Robert Whittaker announced that he is considering to move to 205, which is fascinating. He figured he'd go back down to 170 where he had some success, but he met Stephen Thompson when he was younger. Okay. I think if they fought again, things would be different, but fine, whatever. Cool. Moving up to 205. So you're the UFC. Robert Whittaker is a 205-pound guy. What would you do with him first? And then I guess we'll have a minute to talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
And Duffy, we'll start with you.
If he really wanted to do that, instantly I'd be skeptical. But then my thought is, at middleweight, he has been smaller than everybody he's fought except Kelvin Gastelum. He's been either shorter, lighter, or both, visibly and obviously. And it hasn't stopped him or bothered him at all. He's 11-2 at middleweight. Both losses are to Israel Adesanya. The second fight with Adesanya was much closer than the first. And everyone else, he's frankly made it look kind of easy. It doesn't matter if you're that much bigger and stronger than him if you can't hit him cleanly, which most of these guys can't. It doesn't matter if you're that much bigger if he can still take you down when he wants to and you can't take him down, which has been the case almost every time. Marvin Vettori is going to look like a suit of armor, or like a mech suit that Whittaker could step into on Saturday. And do you think Vettori's gonna beat him? I don't think Vettori will be able to take him down. Don't think he'll be able to hit him cleanly. So if that's the case at 185, he's earned at least a chance to try it at 205. Start him against a borderline ranked guy that's not 3 times his size would be all I ask.
Right.
Kristen King, what do you got? Oh no, and somebody go.
Oh no, Kristen, you're the guest. You go.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't really know if I like the idea of Robert Whittaker moving up to 205. I don't know. It's something about being undersized where he is now. And Ben makes a great point. It doesn't really bother him too much. But now we're talking about like a different weight class where the guys are like tremendously bigger. So I don't know if I really like that move too much. It could just be more so of it's either one of two things. It's either I just don't want to continue to cut weight anymore because, again, he did fight at welterweight before moving up to middleweight, and he seemed to have found a home there, and it seemed to have worked very well for him. So it could just be a matter of, listen, I walk around at like 215 or something like that. Maybe I can just get on with it at 205 to finish out the rest of my career. And then the next part is probably the Max Holloway syndrome, where you're fighting basically every number 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're taking him out, and then you finally get another crack at the champion, and it just doesn't hit. He definitely had more success in the second Israel Adesanya fight, but is a third one going to look any different? I feel like he could still make some adjustments, but it's just a matter of if Israel's at the top of the throne, like Rob's right, like it's like number 1A, you know what I mean? So it may look different if he can get past Alex Pereira at UFC 281, but still a lot of questions. I still feel like Rob should stay at middleweight, but that's up to him, whatever he wants to do.
Ant Walker, what does the Joe Benavidez of 185 do right now? If he goes to 205.
If he goes to 205, I think it's one of two options that you have. Either one, you go with a former middleweight who moved up to 205, a guy like Thiago Santos.
Ah,
or Anthony Smith just got injured, but yeah. That's that sort of fighter where they would kind of be the undersized person as well at 205. So that kind of equals out the size disparities. Or you go the other route and you go stupidly against a bigger person to where it's almost comical and a winnable fight, say a Johnny Walker.
Oh my God, Ant Walker, you're in my head.
Oh, that's the same thing.
I'm so impressed. My two options were going to be former middleweight, moved up, Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos. Santos is the guy because Smith is coming off a loss and or injury, so he's not going to be around for a while. And Santos has been losing, but he's still a top 10 guy. Now, Robert Whittaker's number 1 at middleweight, so you're not going to give him a Nick Nagumo or something. You're going to give him a name. But do you give him a Glover Teixeira because he's the number 1 in the division? No. But you give him somebody that's funny, like a crazy, way bigger that makes you go stop it, knock it off, like a Johnny Walker or a Ryan Spann. So yeah, I'm going to go with the latter because they're available. I'm going to go with a welcome to 205. And if he gets past a guy like Ryan Spann, who is, like 2 of him, we got ourselves a ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I think even like with Johnny Walker in particular, because he's big to the point where it's just comical.
Yes, exactly.
Like I'll never forget interviewing this guy and looking straight up as it's like I'm eye level with his solar plexus, and it's like this dude is massive. So like that would just be so much fun to watch. And Johnny Walker's going to be throwing some crazy techniques or trying to fly around. Although that would be the fight he breaks out the wrestling. That would be the fight he tries to out wrestle. By the way, it creates a lot of chaotic potential for fun. And Thiago Santos, I think, is style wise makes a lot of sense. That would be an interesting matchup. Without the same level of size disparity. So if Robert Whittaker is likely doing this, like Kristen said, to reinvigorate his chances at getting another title shot at middleweight. Sure. I doubt he seriously wants to face off against the Jan Blachowicz and Ray Kick and this super big, super powerful, super destructive guys that 205 has to offer. I doubt that makes sense for him at this stage in his career. So
if Yoel Romero can't take him down and keep him down, I'm just saying I don't see many guys outside of Glover Teixeira being able to hold Robert Whittaker down.
Yeah,
but 20 pounds is 20 pounds.
Hey, another good option, Volkan Ozdemir.
Yep, that's a good one.
I think that's the highest up in the division that makes sense schedule wise. That you could put Johnny Walker for a intro to 205. Let me stop this damn bell before someone moves.
Just won't
fellow former welterweight Anthony Smith.
All right. So we
See, I was going to joke like Apollo Costa who can't make weight, but we already saw that.
Yeah.
Didn't we see Whittaker Costa or no? I feel like we saw Whittaker Costa.
It was scheduled, I think, and then
Whittaker had an injury.
Okay, yeah. That's right. Whittaker Costa 205.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I have a feeling he'll have a better gas tank than Luke Rockhold. So like I don't know, Costa might have to try. All right, so let's go ahead and keep things rocking here. The Contender Series is on a roll right now, and they are giving away contracts left and right. There have been 24 fights halfway through the season, 20 of which has resulted in signings.
And Bo Nickel, which is a not signed but signed. So
all right, so 21-ish, I guess, or 20 and a half.
Yeah.
I guess we'll count that. Kristen, gentlemen, what do we feel about this? What is this making you think about? I know what I'm thinking.
I'm fine with being introduced to new talent, but this is a show that is platformed as the ultimate job interview, right? And you normally don't hire every single person that you interview unless it's some scam type stuff like Vector Knives or where everyone's
prepaid legal.
Everyone's in the lobby is getting hired. They interview everyone together. That should be your first red flag. So I'm okay with adding to the roster, but I also feel like there was actually a moment in the last episode, or which episode did Daniel Cormier, he commentated on, and he opened the show and he's like, listen, I just told Dana White he's signing way too many people. And I'm like, I never thought I would hear that on the broadcast, but he's right in a sense. It just feels like a lot of people are joining the roster, and I don't know, it kind of takes away the allure of the show, because at this point, if you want to make it into the UFC, a bona fide way to do it, skip the Ultimate Fighter. You don't have to subject yourself to just 12 weeks or however many weeks it takes to film that show now. You don't have to do that anymore. You just have to go, perform, make sure Dana White is happy. Dana White and co actually are happy with what they've seen, and then there is a 85 to 90% chance that you get signed if you do something spectacular. And then you better hope that you can live up to that, because there have been plenty of Contender Series signings that may have jumped the gun too soon, and they just did not deliver when they finally got to the grand stage. So yeah, it's starting to feel like just feeder at this point. So
they're signing way too many fighters, and because of that, it feels like a cost move rather than the talent move. Yes. They're signing everybody because, hey, they may not be any better, but they're cheaper because they're on new 10 and 10 deals, and better that than re-sign guys that are fighting out their first one and are expecting at least a bump to 12 and 12. Just reboot. And because of that, it feels more like farming than hunting. Maybe they're not taking aim at anything. They're eating like those big whales do, where they just kind of strain 1 million gallons of seawater and eat all the little tiny shrimp out of it. That's what it feels like, because the talent level is the same as it was on season 1. Every episode has maybe one fighter, maybe two, that are really intriguing. But in season 1, that's all they'd sign. Yes. Whereas here, they're signing everybody who wins and one or two of the ones that lose. Flashback to season 1. Chris Curtis appears on Dana White's Contender Series. He knocks out Sean Lally with like a spinning hook kick. Gnarly knockout. He doesn't get signed. Why? Because on that same night, Greg Hardy plastered Austin Lane in like 49 seconds. Greg Hardy didn't get signed either. He got the developmental deal and had to come back on the Contender Series. Why didn't either of those guys get signed? Because Alonzo Menafield killed Deshaun Boatwright in 8 seconds. Tell me that episode happens this week, all those dudes are signed. It's the same talent level, just the standards of quality have gone out the window.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't have much more better way to say it than that. The only thing I will say is that COVID has hurt the MMA system as a whole. And we know that. I mean, skipping past the obvious, what I'm talking about is
the COVID hysteria, I think you mean.
Oh yes, of course. Yes, it's all the
'Cause it
media.
didn't really happen.
It's Alex Cayley. No, what I'm really referring to is due to COVID, regional shows were at a just bottomed out. The regional MMA was depleted and barely ran, which meant that these 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 fighters aren't able to have matches. It's not about fighting opponents. It's that there's no event to fight at. And because of that, we're having 4-0, 5-0 fighters like crazy. Like next week, Jose Enrique 5-0, Panaz and SD Dumas are both 6-0. Dudakova 5-0, Blake Bilder 6-0, and with so we're getting fighters. I think I'll disagree with Ben saying that I think the talent is depleting, it's decreasing as we go through seasons because we're overfishing the ponds. We're overfishing the events that are running. I mean, LFA, we've done a number. I say we. What the hell am I saying we for? The UFC has done a number on the likes of LFA, scooping basically every champion that ever wins a title. Immediately, you're getting called up. Now, obviously, Mota just had that amazing knockout in this past weekend. Well, he's going to the UFC very shortly. We know that for a fact. But the overfishing, I like to refer to as the puppy milling, all of the words, are making Contender Series kind of gut the scene and the feeder scenes more. And I was so over the moon for it to begin with. It was a great concept. Why? Because of what Ben was saying. It was a competition to see who can do the best thing. Now it's you show up, you win, you basically have a contract. There are now I think there's like 3 contracts issued so far where you lose and you're signed. This isn't Stephan Bonner, Forrest Griffin. This is Carlos Candelario, whom I like very much, and Victor Altamirano. Like both those guys, but do you really issue a contract to the loser? The fighter that had the gallbladder or the appendicitis or whatever, he fought while he was sick, and then he got signed afterwards because he toughed it out. That's the threshold now, and it's that threshold is now winning you're in, and I think that has done it a disservice, and I think Ant Walker has some more thoughts on this.
I think it's. I certainly have my thoughts on this, and they don't differ far from you guys on here. I mean, this is when a guy like Shane Burgos is like shown the door. You think like, okay, well, one Shane Burgos means we've got 6 new guys.
Yep.
That will fill roster spots. Like this is a byproduct of the UFC having this insane schedule, having this guaranteed money coming from broadcast partners like ESPN, to where it really doesn't matter what who's on the card. I mean, look at the next pay-per-view, Nate Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev. Like, look at the absolute drivel that exists under that main event. This is what we're building toward every single week now. This is part of the plan. Like, there's no way that the penny pinching ways of the UFC are not thinking about these 10-10 contracts. If I'm not mistaken, when they say that the newcomer pay has gone up, like, it excludes the Contender Series guys, correct?
Correct. It is a rookie minimum 12-12 for a signee. For a Contender Series signee, it's 10-10.
Exactly. So for all the guys that are in the regional circuit, and that their sole focus is making it to the UFC, and you can't tell any one of them, any professional fighter, that they're not going to be a world champion, that they're not going to excel and get that counter money. You can't tell any of them that, because that delusional confidence is what's needed to even compete in the sport on a high level. Like, those guys are going to gladly sign that contract, and because, hey, well, I'm gonna fight this contract out. I'm gonna go undefeated, and then I'm gonna get the big money when I win the belt. Yeah, there's only one belt in each weight class, gentlemen and ladies. It's only one belt in each weight class. So someone's gonna crap out. It's probably gonna be you, unfortunately. So, like, this is what the UFC is building to. 10-10 for everybody, and as a friend of ours, aka the piece of shit journalist Mark Raymundi, in his ESPN article, it's like, hey, as he quoted Dana White, the fighter pay is not changing. So this is what we're seeing. This is all coming to fruition. Sucks, and it also cheapens the product.
Yes.
which is really, from a fan perspective, that's got to be the worst part of it. Like, we're watching lower caliber fighters in these positions. That's that's where it does the viewer a disservice. I'd much rather have, that Contender Series day that Ben referenced. I'd much rather that be the norm, because there's so much talent on the horizon. That when Minifield is signed, like, oh, this guy can make impact. This guy can make waves. Now it's just hey, you won, you're on, and you just go rank and file without any real impact. So that sucks.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of people complain about the lack of recognition on the current roster. And I mean, you have a roster full of like 700 people, so it's very hard to kind of keep up with who comes in, who goes out, all that stuff. And a lot of people are saying, I don't know who the majority, like 3/4 of this roster is. A lot of these people came from the Ultimate Fighter or a Contender Series, and there's just not a connection anymore. Like, usually there's these bona fide stars that come out of these products. And again, it started off so great. Now it's just kind of like, I hope he can sink or swim. It's one of those kinds of things where you're just like, I hope he performs, but if he doesn't, I'm also not like that beat up over it, because I don't know who these people are. It's just happening too fast, and it's happening so often. So I feel like as a fan, for us, we have to know these people, because this is what our business is about. We have to know who signs, what this person does. And I'm all about new prospects and stuff like that. But for the average MMA fan, you're asking them to connect with someone that on a regular basis they would have no idea. I could ask someone right now, give me the top 15 names at lightweight. I don't think I could even get that. And so imagine the rest of the roster. They're just at a loss.
Kristen, you bring an excellent point, but I think you're being generous in your assessment of that, even because the average MMA fan, of course, we can't expect them to know all this stuff going on. But I think it's gotten to the point where the average MMA media member can't keep up with this.
Yep.
Now, I'm kind of on the outskirts of all of this now, so perhaps my perspective isn't quite what it should be on this, but I know in my final days as a Sherdog guy, as a regular contributor to MMA On Point, and when we were at my MMA News working together and stuff, like, I had a hard time keeping up with who was who. And this is someone who watched every single thing that I possibly could from start to finish. And kept detailed notes. Like, I have Google Docs files of very detailed notes of so many fight cards of every little thing that took place that was of note to me. I had trouble keeping up with who was who after a while, because it every weekend it just doesn't stop, and it's this new slew of names. How many times, gentlemen? Like, I know if you were on the was it Sherdog Roundtable where we did the predictions when TJ was hosting and stuff. Like, you got, and Ben, I know you do tape study and stuff every week and for preview articles. How many times have you looked at a fight card and you're like trying to do your research, you're trying to do your tape study, you have no idea who this person is, you turn the fight on, you turn one of their fights on, I'm like, oh, I've seen this guy fight. I've seen this guy fight like 4 times.
Yep.
It happened every single week to me, as I was prepping to get familiar with events. Media members have trouble keeping up with this. And Kristen, I know you specialize in prospects. Like, I know that's just, I know we very briefly worked on another project together centered around MMA prospects until pandemic kind of shut that down. But you take special time to do that. Most media members don't specialize in that. Like, we're watching the main product, but they can't keep up. So at some point, the fans have to be disillusioned with this. Like, I see it more and more when I do peek into MMA Twitter. I see it more and more. Like, some of the diehard people on Twitter that are just part of the MMA community, they are becoming less enthusiastic week after week. They are drawing more blanks as to who this person is. They look at a fight card with more side eye now, because it's just such a watered down product. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be doom and gloom here, but it's very difficult to stay interested in the sport when it's turning in this direction, at least on the biggest stage in the UFC.
I'll just to kind of wrap this up, I'll give a very small example. I am about as engrossed in this sport as one can be. I'm not. This is not tooting my own horn. I'm kind of upset about this. That I've seen. Yeah, I cover so much. I work with Sherdog Fight Finder staff members. I see so much. I run into it. I encounter it. There's an upcoming Dana White's Contender Series event. I think it's week 8, and there's two guys fighting, and I think they're lightweights. Malik Lewis and Trevor Peake. One of them is from Texas, fought in Arkansas and whatever, and the other is from Alabama, and he's fought in Alabama and Tennessee. Why do I mention these guys? I've never heard of them before. I've never run into them. I've never dealt with any of their work. When one guy exclusively fights an Alabama Fighting Championship, an Aries Fight Series, I'm looking at it right now. I don't know this for the top of my head, or the others in Peak Fighting, which is over in Arkansas, or an LFA untelevised undercard that I can't watch because the LFA doesn't show all their prelims, or Rage in the Cage, which is notoriously bad in Oklahoma City for not showing the things. When I don't know who these fighters are, and I've never heard of them, and I have to do my homework to decide to learn about these fighters and get there up to date, then we have a problem. Because if the hardest of hardcore people looks at a fight card and goes, who the hell are these two guys? Then we know we're doing something wrong here, because it means neither of these fighters have made the step to that level that should get them to Contender Series. We're having to pull fighters out of regional state level organizations that it's not even the biggest organization in Alabama that they're winning in. And that's the biggest fight card they've been in. And now they're in Contender Series. So that's my concern about talent levels here, is that one of these two guys may be exceptional. I went back and watched Trevor Peake's fights. I watched all of them. I have the referees, all of the refs, and all the results. They're all set. And he can hit like a ton of bricks. He knocked out Kama Worthy in a very, very small level fight card. But when we're fishing all the way down to a low regional fight card to fill out a Contender Series, what are we trying to do? And I think that we're doing a disservice, we, the community and the organization, to the fighters themselves, to thrust them into this position from relative obscurity. I mean no disrespect to these two fighters, but I've never heard of these two fighters, and it's my job to have heard of you. So if we're not able to get to that level, I think we're kind of hurting ourselves here. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent points by all there. Like this, there's a reason why all these people are getting signed. So, all right, well, it's time to keep things pushing here, because we have to talk about a few things that qualify for the best title segment in all of media history. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. This is where we share something that surprised me, or ironically did not, over the last week or so. Kristen, begin with you, since you are our guest today. What's your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
So I know a lot of the shine was on one championship, but there was also some bare knuckle boxing going on this past weekend. And BKFC made its debut in Albuquerque, and it had a very solid card. My I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment was the main event of that card. It went from completely bad to worse, and I will tell you why. This was, in every sense, it should have been a very somewhat competitive fight. I will give it that, because the way that it was sold to me, everyone everyone knows about Christine Faria, and she is scary. I would not want to be on the receiving end of one punch, let alone the kind of flurries that Taylor Starling was on the receiving end of this past weekend. It was genuinely scary. So I thought that the way Starling had sold herself as this very tough competitor, she's the one that's going to be the one to, hand Christine a loss and get the championship. It had all the makings of a very, very solid fight. It didn't last more than a minute. The very first flurry that Christine landed on Taylor had dropped, and as she's through the rope, she is directing her attention towards her corner and saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Now, I don't know what the disconnect was, because this is where things get a little bit odd for me. She's telling her corner she can no longer continue. She gets up. I don't know if it's at the advice of her corner or if it's because Jan Miragliotta is behind her saying, Taylor, get up, let's go. As in, let's resume the fight. Or if she was just genuinely confused at that moment because she just finished telling her corner she can't do it. She turns to Big Dan and is like, I can do it. She eats one really hard shot to the nose. Like, I thought it may have been broken at that point. And then she just kind of waves off her own fight. She's like, nope, I can't do it anymore. I'm done. And I'm just genuinely confused as to where the blame should be shifted at this point. Is it the corner? Is it the referee? Because if the corner's not looking at the health and safety of their fighter, surely the referee is. And I don't know, maybe Big Dan didn't see the exchange between her and her corner where she's telling them I can't do it because he just turned her around and was like, all right, let's get to it. You can go, right? Let's go. And it's just very clear she cannot go. And she went out there to just get demolished. And I feel kind of bad because she's received the brunt of the backlash because a lot of people are saying it ruined a very solid event for bare knuckle. But man, what a way to end a card, not on a bang, but on a whimper. And such an
Literal
whimper.
Wow.
A literal whimper.
Yes.
So that was a very, very surprising thing because I was expecting a little bit more of a competitive fight, and the way that it kind of unfolded, I just kind of lost it at that point. I was just like, well, I don't know what to do in this situation, and neither does anyone else. So it was just a very confusing time.
Well, all right, Jake. Well, what's your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
Well, mine is more humorous than it is depressing because the story has reached this level, and it is a story well familiar to all four of us. Our best buddy, Askar Mozharov, is in the news again. Yep, sure is. And it wasn't from anything that we did as media. We're not to blame for the situation that has arisen. Well, why is Mr. Mozharov in the news again? Well, he failed a drug test for a metabolic metabulator or modulator, which basically is the kind of thing that is supposed to offset your system when you've been taking steroids to a high enough level that your testosterone levels are so high, they're superhuman. You take this other medicine to level you out. Brock Lesnar, when he tested positive for clomiphene, was a very famous example of why the heck is Brock Lesnar testing positive for estrogen type of things? Well, it's because his levels are so whacked out because he's been taking elephant steroids, that kind of ridiculous situation. Well, Mr. Mozharov failed the drug test in Nevada. Now, the level of it, I guess, was not to the degree of USADA flagging, but it was still prevalent in his system and enough to matter. This guy on an interview, I don't recall the source, admitted to having taken steroids, which is why there was a delay in him fighting for the UFC for so long, because he was booked against Menifee like a year before, but he had to get out of his system all the drugs. I'm not making this up. He had to clean up and let them all do their course, which is why he had like a hold on his account, I guess is a way to describe it. And here he is. And he said he was done. And he said on the interview that he did, and that they're through, and he's, did his, cleaned out or whatever. And he was all clean. And yet here we are. I can't think of a fighter in the history of combat that has just outright publicly told more intentionally false statements than Askar Mozharov. Every single thing he said has been untrue. And it is remarkable to the point of comedy all the way around to tragedy. Maybe back around to comedy again, all the way on the other side. There is one positive. He has now provided me with the conclusion to the story that I'm writing, because I am planning on having a long form podcast type of audio video show where I talk about what happened. I present the things. There's a lot of information that I haven't put out there that the Fight Finder team has gathered. And my gosh, man, what are you doing? Why? What did you think was going to happen? You weren't thinking, and we get that. But this is the I miss Chris Berman and that segment of the come on, man, because on top of this absolute crap Sunday, we have the worst cherry that could possibly be that not only did he lie about his record intensely, personally, and all of the things that led to that, well, he also failed the drug test for the only fight he's ever had on a major stage that was worth its salt. And it's just...
Bozo's gonna bozo. Yeah, this guy just keeps providing content. So thank you.
I couldn't have scripted something like this if I wanted to write a comedy of errors. I couldn't have gone this far to make it this ridiculous.
Yeah, like we just wouldn't even believe, like, oh, that's unrealistic if you saw that in a movie. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons, a bit of a continuation from former lightweight and welterweight champion of the UFC, BJ Penn, who, as we said last week, lost his bid to get elected governor of Hawaii and did surprisingly well, disturbingly well, getting like 25% of the vote. Well, it's not over. Because I guess leading up to the election, he was tossing out rumors of voter suppression and fraud and whatnot, and he's made good on those attempts to undermine the election, because he is now officially contesting the results in the Hawaiian Supreme Court. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm not even going to go down the rant that I can, but I'll leave it up to you to decide. Have your
clearly the work clearly the work of a man who thought a third Frankie Edgar fight was a good idea.
Yeah,
and then change his whole approach to be fighting on him, the tiptoes.
Yeah, this is
Whipper is like 1890s style fisticuffs, like Marcus of Queensberry shit. Like,
wow. As I said last week, Tito Ortiz won the city council like with 14%, like an election that no one really cares about in a place that no one really cares about. City council, that's like nothing. Governor is a huge title. Like, that's a step away from president. Think about that. That is a step away from president if you are a governor. BJ Penn, the alleged rapist, BJ Penn, cognitively depleted former champion. Yes, be smart with your vote, people. All right. So we have a UFC card that kind of fits into our whole discussion about cards really not having much of an impact nowadays, and a lot of new people and just a mix of names that you wouldn't be very familiar with unless you are super, super, super entrenched in the sport, likely garnering a paycheck from it. But we've got Ciryl Gane-Tai Tuivasa in the main event. A very entertaining heavyweight fight there. But is there anything else other than, of course, the Whittaker and Vettori fight that we mentioned before that's of note to you that you just want to give a slight highlight to before we wrap things up today?
I'm jumping on the grenade for a very different purpose. This card is a very, very low key banger. I know I undersold it the right way. There are some matchups that have no relevance whatsoever, which means they're going to very possibly deliver an extremely delightful amount of violence. Like John McDessie, Nasrat Hakparas, matters absolutely nothing, but it's going to be crazy. But my fight that I'm really stepping on, and it's one that I'm probably going to steal from one of you guys before you guys can pick it, is a preliminary contest between I should be ranked Nasruddin Imavov and a human highlight reel Joaquin Buckley that is buried on the prelims underneath some of those other fights that just has carnage written all over it. I look at these matches and I go, oh my gosh, I don't care about this fight, and it will have no, any of these guys or women are 6 wins away from being ranked, but it's still going to be interesting and entertaining for me. And it's also early start time.
Yeah, the McDessie and Junior Gastelum fight was the one that I kind of had in mind when I saw this. Yeah, you said it perfectly. I mean, it's probably going to be a violent fight. These are two guys who have had exciting, sometimes weird fights, and makes for a good combination. So I'm intrigued by this on just a pure, glutton for all things sadistic sort of way. I'm sure Kristen is looking for some blood to flow in that one. Any other fights, Kristen, that you have in mind that you just want to highlight for a second here?
I'm just going to go back to what Jay said. I'm sincerely hoping that this is not the finalized lineup, because Imavov and Buckley should be on the main portion of the card. I just want to throw that out there. But my other fight that I'm super excited for is Jordan and Nathaniel Wood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to miss a Charles Jordan fight.
Yes.
Whenever he's on a card, I'm tuning in. And so if he's on the prelims and I got to wake up early as hell, I'm going to wake up early as hell because I'm not missing that guy fight. And Nathaniel Wood, who's now at featherweight, remember he was at bantamweight, but because there was a lack of opponents and he just couldn't get fights going for like, it's almost like the Arnold Allen type of thing. Like he just fights once and then you don't hear from him anymore. Now he's at featherweight to try and stay more active. And his debut against Charles Rosa was chef's kiss. And so I'm very excited to see what he does against someone who is definitely going to bring the fight to him. So it should be really fun. I'm excited for that one.
Definitely. Ben, anything you want to show a brief spotlight on?
I agree with Jay that there are quite a few fights here that should deliver violence, either just because they're built for violence, like McDessie versus Haqparast, or because they're just bad mismatches.
Yes.
Our new open, or not, I guess it's not our new opener anymore. The new opener is a banger, but Stephanie Egger versus the Argentinian
Eileen Perez.
woman, Eileen Perez. That's going to be. I said on the preview, and I was wearing this hat. I said all Eileen Perez does. Like I watched 3 of her fights. I'd never seen any of her fights. Like I came to her just completely cold as a prospect. I watched 3 of her fights. All 3 of them, she took the other woman down with a body lock of some kind within the first 60 seconds, like double underhooks or just a lateral drop, like just some sort of inside takedown, moved to side controller mount, and then beat the shit out of the other woman. I said, she has a known game plan, and if that works on Stephanie Egger, I will eat this hat. Because this woman is like a 5'5" tank running at a decorated like national champion judoka and trying to do that. She's going to die.
Arm is going to be barred.
Yeah, like she's going to be on her ass getting armbarred or kimura'd within a minute, and because it's 145, she'll still only be 2 wins away from a title shot.
Another just real quick, another fighter, I should have mentioned this before, another fighter who I had never heard of because her biggest promotion is Samurai Fight House. Not exactly a household name down there in Argentina. I think they fought like they're located in like Buenos Aires. So here we are, Samurai Fight House, the UFC. But last question, we're really, really low on time. Gane Tuivasa, what are we thinking? Can Tuivasa actually do the damn thing, or is the super duper underdog going to get gunned?
No. Gane is going to style on him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kristen King?
Yeah, well,
I'm not counting Tuivasa out.
Neither am I.
I think he has enough. You know what? He has that one punch type of power that I'm like, maybe if he does connect, it could be a different story. But I'm in the same mindset as you guys. I do feel like he'll be on the end of a lot of Gane's attacks, but I don't know if he closes the distance and gets close enough and just cracks that chin. Let's see. I'm not writing him off. And I did see the odds. They're starting to shorten a little bit, and I started learning more about odds, so I know that's a good thing.
Oh, all right. Adding new wrinkles to your game. I like it. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap things up for this week on the Living Death Show. Big thanks to Kristen King. As always, welcome to come on anytime she so pleases. We are always happy to have you, and just always a good excuse to talk to you in general. So, and of course, you can check out her work on Bloody Elbow. Jay and Ben, of course, they've got plenty of fight week coverage on Sherdog.com. You can check out, and of course, me. Probably can't find me because I ain't gonna be found. I'm just doing my thing. But you know, you can hit me up on Twitter. So I might reply if I see the notification before I got other things to do. So like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Stay beautiful, stay positive, stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.